you do not do, any more, black shoe, in which I have lived like a foot, for 30 years, poor and white, barely daring to breathe or chew. Daddy, I have had to kill you. You died before I had time. Marble heavy, a bag full of God, ghastly statue with one gray toe, big as a Frisco seal. And a head in the freakish Atlantic, where it pours bean green over blue, and the waters off a beautiful Nauset, I used to pray to recover you. Ach, do. In the German tongue, in the Polish town, scraped flat by the roller of wars, wars, wars. But the name of this town is common. My Polak friend says there are a dozen or two. So I can never tell where you put your foot, your root. I can never talk to you. The tongue stuck in my jaw. It stuck like a barbed wire snare. Ick, 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 ick. I could hardly speak. I thought every German was you. And the language obscene, an engine, shuffling me off like a Jew. A Jew to Dachau, Auschwitz, Belsen. I began to talk like a Jew. I think I may well be a Jew. The snows of the Tyrol, the clear beer of Vienna, are not very pure or true. With my gypsy ancestress and my weird luck, and my Tarok pack, I may be a bit of Jew. I have always been scared of you, with your Luftwaffe, your gobbledygoo, and your neat mustache, and your Aryan eye, bright blue. Panzerman, oh you. Not God, but a swastika. So black, no sky could squeak through. Every woman adores a fascist, the boot in the face, the brute heart of a brute like you. You stand at the blackboard, Daddy, in the picture I have of you, a cleft in your chin instead of your foot, but no less a devil for that. No, not any less of a black man who bit my pretty red heart in two. I was 10 when they buried you. At 20 I tried to die, to get back to you. I thought even the bones would do. But they pulled me out of the sack, and they stuck me together with glue. And then I knew what to do. I made a model of you, a man in black with a Mein Kampf look, and a love of the rack and the screw. And I said, I do. So, Daddy, I'm finally through. The black telephone's off at the root. The voices just can't worm through. If I've killed one man, I've killed two. The vampire who said he was you, and drank my blood for a year. 7 years, if you want to know. Daddy, you can lie back now. There's a stake in your fat black heart, and the villagers never liked you. They are dancing and stamping on you. They always knew it was you. Daddy, you bastard. I'm through.
Today we will be analyzing the poem Daddy by Sylvia Plath using the tip-fast method. The first stanza starts with, you do not do any more, black shoe, in which I have lived like a foot for 30 years, poor and white, barely daring to breathe or a chew. So I'm going to go ahead and circle black, giving imagery, a color to the shoe. So she's actually using the shoe as a metaphor to describe her father and what she feels trapped and scared of inside. So we can say her father is compared to a black shoe in which she is trapped inside of. So for the second stanza, Daddy, I have had to kill you, you died before I had time. So I highly doubt that she physically killed her father. It seems to appear that he died before, and that he still somehow has an effect on her life, even though he's dead, even though he's been gone from the physical world. She still has an effect on her mind and on her subconscious. So we do know that the speaker has managed to remove her father from her mental state, that she has killed him, but emotionally, with forgetting him and forgetting what he's done to her. Marble heavy, a bag full of God, ghastly statue with one gray toe, big as a Frisco seal. So she's pretty much comparing her father to an enormous gray statue with a toe as big as a Frisco seal, a San Francisco seal. In her eyes, her father is a huge statue, just dominant and gray and almost scary looking. And a head in the freakish Atlantic where it pours bean green over blue. in the waters of beautiful Nauset. I used to pray to recover you. Achu do. So we have more color imagery of the ocean, which almost provides a beautiful picture of the ocean. So Nauset is actually a town in Massachusetts, and the speaker, Sylvia Plath, is from Massachusetts. So it's a bit of a parallel. And she's describing her father as the statue that's going across the Atlantic and going into the U.S. That's just a huge statue that covers almost thousands of miles of land. This line, "achu do," is actually German for OU, which we will see later on in the poem as is revealed that her father is German and he was a German immigrant. In the German tongue, in the Polish town, scraped flat by the roller of wars, wars, wars. But the name of the town is common, my Polack friend. So it's clear that this Polish town has continually been destroyed by multiple wars over a long period of time. Says there are a dozen or two, so I never could tell you where you put your foot, your root. I never could talk to you, the tongue stuck in my jaw. So the father is from a Polish town that has been destroyed by multiple wars, but there apparently are so many of these Polish towns with the same name that she will never know exactly where her father is from. It's stuck in a barbed wire snare. Ick, 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 ick. I could hardly speak. I thought every German was you, and the language obscene. So it's clear that she is having trouble communicating with her father. We don't know whether that's due to her struggling to speak German or the fact that she's so terrified of her own father that she can't even speak to him. So the word ick, ick, ick. Ick is actually I in German. So we don't know if she could hardly speak because she was scared of her father, and she thought every German was like her father, so maybe she was scared to speak to other people that speak the German language because they remind her of her father. And there's a very negative connotation to the German language. Perhaps she thinks the language obscene because the way her father speaks it has just put terror into her and fear. An engine, chuffing me off like a Jew to Dachau, Auschwitz, Belsen. I began to talk like a Jew. I think I may well be a Jew. So, chuffing, that is an example of onomatopoeia, a figurative device. So, she feels like she is an engine, a train, and she is Jewish, and these Dachau, Auschwitz, and Belsen are actually Nazi concentration camps during World War II in Nazi Germany, and she feels as if she's a Jewish person under control of Nazi occupation. So she feels like a Jew and her father a Nazi. Also, many times the Jewish people were taken to these concentration camps with trains, so she feels as if she's on a train, she's a Jewish person on a train being taken to a concentration camp. The snows of the Tyrol, the clear beer of Vienna, are not very pure or true. With my gypsy ancestress and my weird luck and my Tarok pack, I may be a bit of a Jew. So Tyrol is actually an alpine mountain region between Italy and Austria, and Vienna is the capital of Austria. So the German Nazi mentality is purifying their country of the dominant race, which is the white race, the Aryan, the blue eye, blonde hair stereotype. So purity is associated with this belief. So we see that the speaker does have relations to a gypsy who was also, gypsies were persecuted as well as Jews and homosexuals by the Nazis. So she does feel as if she is under persecution. And a Tarok pack is actually cards that are used to tell fortunes by gypsies and fortune tellers. So she does feel like a Jew. She feels like a minority that's being persecuted by Nazis, her father being the ultimate Nazi persecuting her. I have always been scared of you, with your Luft wife, your gobbledygoo, and your neat mustache and your Aryan eye bright blue. Panzerman, Panzerman, oh you. So she has been scared of her father, and a Luftwaffe is actually a German Air Force of World War II, and the gobbledygoo is a made-up word. It's not a real word. Maybe it's her making fun of the German language since she despises it and considers it obscene. And when she talks about his neat mustache, his Aryan eye, bright blue, these are terms or characteristics that describe Hitler. So even though it seems quite horrible, she's actually comparing her father to Hitler. The last line of the stanza, Panzerman, Panzerman OU. Panzers were actually German tank drivers. So this kind of ties back to the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force. She's naming units of the German army. And OU is actually a parallel to earlier in the poem with the German Achu Du. They both mean OU. So Achu Du is the German language, OU is English, and they mean the same thing. It's a bit of a parallel. Maybe it's contrasting German with English or American. Not God, but a swastika, so black no sky could squeak through. Every woman adores a fascist. The boot in the face, the brute. Brute heart of a brute like you. So the swastika is the Nazi symbol of tyranny and oppression, which is pretty horrible and a very universally bad symbol. And she's comparing her father to a swastika of German occupation. And he's so once again, black is used to determine or show his evil, his fear that he casts upon people, the blackness, the no light. And every woman adores a fascist. So a fascist is an extremely authoritarian government. So she considers him a brute, a fascist. So she's saying that he's extremely authoritarian, extremely controlling, and similar to the Nazis, both fascists. So with the line, every woman adores a fascist, we don't know if this is the speaker condemning women for seeking men that are dominating, or maybe perhaps she herself has loved a cruel man that's also a fascist as well as her father. We don't know yet. Perhaps we'll find out later in the poem, but it's unclear what it really means. You stand at the blackboard, Daddy, in the picture I have of you, a cleft in your chin instead of your foot, but no less a devil for that, no, not any less the black man who. So she says her father was standing at the blackboard. Interestingly enough, the author of this poem, Sylvia Plath, her father was a college professor. So this is some truth behind her actual father. Maybe she's talking about her actual father in this poem being a teacher standing at his blackboard. So in the last part of the stanza, she pretty much calls her father the devil, and with a cleft in his chin instead of his foot. So the devil has often been depicted as an animal, usually a goat, which a goat has hooves, and often there is a signature cleft on one of the goat's hoofs to show that it is the devil. And instead of having a cleft on his foot, the father has the cleft on his chin. So the author the speaker is calling her father the devil and showing that he has a physical characteristic which identifies him as the devil. Any less the black man who bit my pretty red heart in two. I was 10 when they buried you. At 20 I tried to die and get back to you. I thought even the bones would do. So when she calls her father a black man, this is not a physical characteristic. This has something to do more with the black shoe, the black sky that her father creates, how dark and evil and twisted he is. And she did break his heart in two, I guess emotionally, and she did die when she was just only 10 years old. He physically did die, but at 20, she did commit suicide, and the author, Sylvia Plath, she actually did attempt suicide in her life. So it shows that the parallels between the author and her poem, that this is a poem true to herself that does show her life and her relationship with her father. So she did attempt to commit suicide to get back to you. So she thought that by committing suicide she would manage to go way back, I guess, into the depths of hell to see her father. And so it's a little bit, by repeating back, back, back to you, I thought even the bones would do. The speaker expresses that by attempting to commit suicide, she thought that with her death, she would be able to rejoin her father. It's almost contradictory. Throughout the poem, she's explaining how her father is similar to a Nazi and Hitler, yet she tried to commit suicide to go rejoin him. So it's a little bit confusing, this mixed ideology of her father. It's almost, she loves him, but he's just cruel to her and nothing but a dominant evil force in her life. But they pulled me out of the sack and they stuck me together with glue. And then I knew what to do. I made a model of you, a man in black with a Mein Kampf look. So they stuck her together with glue. She was saved. She didn't get to commit suicide, but back together with glue. It seems like although she is put back together, she's still broken. She's not perfectly put back together. She still has issues with her father, mental issues, but she claims she knew what to do and she made a model of her father. So she does find a man in black, once again the black, similar as to her father, and the evil and the black color that he almost implements in her life with a Mein Kampf look. So Mein Kampf is it means my struggle in German. It's actually the book that Hitler wrote. So she's comparing her new model to her father as well as Hitler, which obviously cannot be a good thing, and this man is a model of her father, so chances are this new man in her life, whether it's a lover or a friend, it's unclear yet, this man most likely will not bring her happiness and only bring her more pain and terror. And a love of the rack and screw, and I said, I do, I do. So Daddy, I'm finally through. The black telephone's off at the root. The voices just can't worm through. So, and a love of the rack and the screw. A rack and a screw seem to be torture devices, and she's saying she loves the rack and the screw. So she loves the pain, for some reason, she loves the pain that this model of her father brings to her. And she said, I do, which signifies that this is in fact a love interest, that they did get married, and the black telephone's off at the root. So this telephone, the black telephone, seems like a telephone that she uses to talk to her father, since it's black. So this telephone is a means of connection between her and her father. And she says the voices just can't worm through. So does this mean that she has finally severed the connection with her and her father, or this new model of her father has finally made her forget about her real father? If I've killed one man, I've killed two. The vampire who said he was you, and drank my blood for a year, 7 years if you want to know. Daddy, you can lie back now. So, she's killed one man, she's killed two. So, this still doesn't mean she's physically killed anyone. So she's managed to kill her father from her subconscious, from torturing her mentally. And apparently she's managed to also kill off this husband of hers that also had the same effect on her as her father. She claimed that this man was a vampire who said he was you. So she thinks the man was a vampire, which is another bad connotation, such as comparing her father to the devil. And she says he drank his blood for a year, 7 years if you want to know. And the author, Sylvia Plath, actually was married to a man named Ted Hughes for 7 years. So it shows another parallel with the speaker and the author, and how this poem relates to her real life. There's a stake in your fat, black heart, and the villagers never liked you. They're dancing and stamping on you. They always knew it was you. Daddy, daddy, you bastard, I'm through. So, the first line, there's a stake in your fat, black heart. we have another black describing her father, which is seen throughout the poem. And a stake through his heart is actually similar to how a vampire is killed. So she also, like her father and like the husband, she assumes that they are vampires. Like the devil, the vampire, they're all correlated with the father and the husband. The villagers never liked him, so this could show that maybe other people in the speaker's life recognized that this man had a detrimental effect on her. They celebrate when he died, and they knew that because he died, that the speaker would now be able to live her life free of his terror and domination. The last line, "Daddy, Daddy, you bastard, I'm through." This is kind of a final condemnation of her father, pretty much saying, "I'm done with you. You've tortured me. I'm moving on from you. I'm not letting what you've done affect me any longer." When looking back on the title of the poem, Daddy, we do know that the title is about her father. We don't know what context it's going to be, and Daddy almost seems like an endearing term for the father. Almost like usually you would see children call their fathers daddy, but in this case, as we learn throughout the poem, that the father is a dominant figure of terror that causes nothing but distraught in the speaker's life. So it's a little bit ironic that the title is called Daddy. To paraphrase the poem talks about how the speaker's father is compared to Nazis, Hitler, the devil, a vampire, and just how the effect that her father had upon her life, how he made her feel, and how it affected her ability to have a relationship with another man, and how it nearly drove her to death, to suicide. And it's very clear that this man had such an effect on the speaker's life that she was just unable to let go of his memory, destroying her even though he died when she was just a young girl. For figurative devices, there are a few instances of onomatopoeia, such as chuffing on the train, and repetition. And the repetition is used to hammer points home, such as ick, 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 stammering because she doesn't know how to speak, Panzerman, Panzerman, describing a German tank driver, just driving imagery home and driving points home about how the father made the speaker feel and how the speaker viewed her father. The attitude of the poem, it is incredibly depressing. This speaker is having such a difficult time managing to lay her father's memory to rest. Her dead father is haunting her throughout her life, years and years after his death, and she is unable to cope with the fact that her father is gone and that he no longer will be able to inflict his tyranny and oppression on her, yet she's unable to cope with that. And it kind of shows her struggle at how she can remove her father from her life. And she really struggles with it. She even finds a model of replacing him, yet she still cannot remove this horrible figure from her life. It is important to recognize that the color black is seen throughout the entire poem, and the color black is usually, specifically in this poem, a symbol of death, of terror, of darkness. And the father, the dead father, creates darkness and black in her life, and all the black in the poem is associated with the father's terror and oppression that he has upon the speaker. Lastly, the theme of this poem is the speaker's relationship with her father. While some father-daughter relationships are beneficial and loving, this relationship is very, very horrible and very demeaning to the daughter, and she feels oppressed and contained by her father, and this is her struggling with their relationship and how even though she dislikes her father and hates him and compares him to Nazis and Hitler, she still can't seem to let him go. She can't seem to let go of the fact that this man, although her father, has been horrible to her. So it shows that even though the father has treated her daughter so horribly, she still loves him, and it's extremely difficult for her to let him go.